always forget to do that
Okay.
before we start.
Okay. Oh, wait. And you guys can see my screen for the start of the presentation? Just confirming?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. I think you can start it. Okay. Lynette, just let me know when you're
Okay.
ready.
Yep, ready whenever you guys are.
Okay.
Awesome.
Welcome everyone to the Historic District Preservation Commission special meeting for October 20th, 2020. It is a little after 5 o'clock and we are ready to begin. Tonight's going to be a little bit different as there are no typical items. This is merely for the Commission's recommendation to Town Council regarding historic designation. I will ask the homeowners that have asked to be invited if you could please put your mic on mute. And when we get to that item, we'll give you a 3-minute opportunity to speak. And just note, the agenda is a little bit different tonight. All public comment, except for those homeowners that have been invited, will be at item number 3. So if you are looking to call in, or if you are even a homeowner that didn't ask for an invite, you'll need to call in at item number 3, all public comment, and we'll make sure to give some ample time to make sure you can call in. You can find the call in at on the agenda posted on the town's website. So since we still do not have a chair, may I ask the commission for recommendations for our temporary chair for tonight?
Yes, I'd like to recommend Louisa.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor for Louisa Montgomery to serve as the temporary chair for tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Louisa, if you could ask for approval of the agenda.
All righty, thank you, Austin. I hope I don't muddle through too badly, and I'm sure you will correct me when I need it. I'd like to call for a motion for the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, let's call for a vote. All in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
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 Any nays? Unanimously approved. All right, correspondence.
Yes, you received correspondence for 206 Ferry Street, and that was the only direct correspondence outside of a few of the owners asking to be invited for tonight's meeting. So yeah, that's all the correspondence we received.
All righty, may we go on to public comment?
And again, for those that may be joining us a little bit late, if you are looking to make a comment on any one of the items for tonight, now is your chance to call in, unless you were a homeowner that asked to be invited for the meeting, in which case the homeowners that asked for that invite will be given 3 minutes at the time of their and again home showing up. That may be joining us a little bit late, you will need to call in right now. If you are looking to make a comment on any one of the items for tonight,
Austin, does
now
this
is
need
your
to be
chance
read
to call
aloud?
in. Unless you were a homeowner that asked to be invited for the meeting, in which case the homeowners that asked for that invite will be given 3 minutes at the time of their and again home showing up. That may be otherwise
we have no one waiting in the
call
lobby.
in right now. Looking to make a comment on any one of the items for tonight.
Okay, well,
now is your chance to call in. Unless you were a homeowner
I'm on the line. This is Todd Beals,
The homeowner
202
know that
Middle
after
Street.
there's probably a
We
couple
would go on
callers in
to
3 minutes
public comment.
at the time of their
Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
home showing up.
Good evening.
we
My
have
wife
one
Stephanie and I would like to take this opportunity
comment on
to voice
any
our
one of the
public
items for
objection
tonight.
to the potential designation of the structure on our property located at 202 Middle Street, survey number 1421, as having historical significance.
We would go on to
While the house was built in 1950, there's no special character with its cinder block basement and wood frame second story covered with asbestos shingles. There really is nothing architecturally significant about it other than its age. In fact, part of our decision to purchase the property was the fact that it wasn't considered historical and therefore would not require as much design guideline scrutiny and or board approvals for general maintenance or demolition. While we certainly want the basic structural integrity of the home to be maintained to fit in with the unique character of the old village, designating our property as historical may actually have unknown and potentially detrimental effects to us in the following areas. Limit our ability to make routine repairs without special permission. Previously approved minor work may now require a COA, or it may affect our ability to make future changes to the property and what materials we may use. It could also affect the future appeal and resale value of the property, as well as unknown future tax liabilities. Thank you in advance for your consideration, and I appreciate the time.
Lynette, has anyone else popped up yet? Lynette, has anyone else popped up yet?
Yeah, we have Lisa and Jonathan.
Oh, I mean for a phone call. They're
Right, they have their hand raised. I believe they would like to make a comment.
Okay.
Hi, this is Lisa and Jonathan Holmes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to echo the comments previously made on 202 Middle. Our property-
Mr. Holmes,
All right. Yeah.
if you can just turn down your microphone, we're getting a lot, your speaker, we're getting a lot of feedback.
And could you also state your address for the record? When you get back up.
Can you hear
Did
me
we
better
lose
now?
them?
Hello?
There's a little bit of feedback, but you're better than before.
Okay. I'd like to echo the comments previously made on 202 Middle. Our property is on 130 Middle Street, and it was built in 1948. We purchased the property 1 year ago specifically to tear down the structure. It was advertised as a not historic property and therefore would not limit us to demolish the building. It also does not have any historic significance, and it's part of it is built in a flood area. It doesn't comply with the current flood zone restrictions. Bring it into code is very expensive, so it would be much cheaper to level the existing structure and build a new home.
Does that conclude your comments?
We are not in favor of our particular home being historic. My feelings on the historic change is that each structure should be evaluated for its significance as far as architectural value, not just summarily blanketing all structures built after 1970s. That's all. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
I'm on the phone.
Yes, ma'am. You have 3 minutes. To begin, please give your name and number.
My name is Ashley Woody. I live at 110 Friend Street. And I'm so confused about this whole thing, this whole historic thing. You know, first of all, I just have to say, on my street, on Friend Street, you guys are a little late to the game. Anyway, I have 3 minutes. First thing, you mailed the letter to only my husband, although I'm on the mortgage and I'm on the deed. So that annoyed me. And then you can't get anyone to ever call you back from the planning department to actually talk to a person. And that's just sad. And then also, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, there was some kind of noise and I thought maybe you hung up on me. Anyway, also I sent a letter. I addressed it to the HDPC and I sent it last Friday, but I didn't see it added to the agenda. So I don't even know if you all got my letter. Did you get my letter?
We can answer questions after your 3 minutes are over, ma'am.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're building this humongous house right now. And now my yard is going to be flooding because they filled all of the interior of the block except for my yard. If my house is historic, if the flooding gets really bad, will I ever be able to make alterations like to get it raised up? Or if it can't be raised up, to be able to tear it down and fill the lot and build another house? And also, when I decide that I'm done living here and sell the house, will the people that buy it be able to do that because of the flooding issues?
Sorry, this isn't a question and answer time. This is just for your comments.
Oh, okay. Well, that's my comment. So I think at this point, what I would like to request is a deferral until I have time to discuss all of this with my husband and figure out which is going to be the best way to do this. We've lived here for 25 years. This is our home. This is our nest egg. And if becoming historic is going to be detrimental to that, then I think that we would opt out. And also, I don't understand what's so historic about aluminum storm windows like we have on the outside of our house. You know, for the last 13 years, I've been referred to in many OVHD commission meetings as the teardown. You know, I'm the teardown. And so now all of a sudden you all want to make me historic. And I just don't understand it. And I just need it to be explained to me in layman's terms that I can understand.
Sorry, ma'am,
And that's
your
all
3
I have
minutes
to
are up.
say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Lynette, is there anyone else?
Yes, we have another person in the lobby.
Okay.
Oh,
Hi, George.
Sorry, sir, you got cut off?
Yeah, George Grice, 834 Pitt Street.
I'm sorry, did you say 340 Middle Street?
834 Pitt Street.
Yes, George, you go ahead.
So we live at 834 Pitt Street. In 1994. We bought a house at 834 Pitt Street that was about 1,200 square feet, just a little square house, single-family house that was built in 1946. And we basically tore the house down to the studs and down to the foundation. We added twice the amount of foundation, and we added 2.5 times the amount of square feet. You can't even, I mean, the house is totally unrecognizable. And so the house that we built, which is 3,800 square feet, is, I sent the pictures in, is is far different than the house that was cited by the commission that was built in 1946. So we'd like the commission to consider the house, the date that the house was built in 1993, because that's the house that's here and not the house that was there before. Thank you.
Thank you.
I submitted photos.
We have them. We have them.
Thank you.
And Ed, I think you can take them out, and if anyone else is available.
There's no one else waiting in the lobby.
Okay. I guess we can give another 30 seconds just in case anyone's trying to get going.
Can I speak?
Austin, can you hear me?
We can hear both of you. If you want to wait for your items, you can speak at that time, or you can also speak now for both of you, but just one at a time, of course.
Okay, I'm Iris Brown, 320 Morrison Street, and I'm part owner of my parents' home with my siblings. So I was asked to be on this meeting, but I have no information. So I would just appreciate an overview of all that's being planned or all that's being considered for the properties that are in this category of being considered historical property, and how it came about that we were included in the process. Thank you.
And you're done, ma'am? Yes? Okay. Could you just put yourself on mute and we can...
She's already muted.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Gary, did you want to say something now, or did you want to wait until your item is comes up on the agenda? Then, Mr. Gary, you're muted, so you would need to unmute. I don't see anything from Mr. Gary. I do have another caller that has unmuted. I'm not familiar with what the number is, but you can go ahead and if you would like to speak.
Caller, you probably need to hit *6 to unmute yourself.
And it's they just put themselves back on mute, so I'm going to assume they do not wish to speak at this time.
Okay.
No one else is waiting in the lobby.
Yes, hello. Hi, this is Jennifer Short at 102 Pitt. Is now the time to speak, or should I wait since we moved the agenda to the 20th for this property?
Short, you can speak. So I'm picking up your something in the background. You can either speak now, or else you can also speak at your item, though your item is pretty far down, just because it was deferred.
Yes. Well, I'll just say my 3 minutes now, if possible. Okay. But I would also...
If you can just give your name and address again for the record, that would be great.
Certainly. It's Jennifer Short, and this is the property at 102 Pitt Street. And I would like to respectfully object to that property being designated as historic. It is just a cinder block, nondescript 2,000 square foot building that was not even the original site of the Mount Pleasant Academy. It's where the Mount Pleasant Academy was moved to. And this designation would greatly diminish any future ability for us to make changes to the building. And we currently have a situation where we actually may have a fence being built right next to us, that would mean that we would have to make some modifications to continue conducting business. And of course, this designation would greatly affect the resale of this property. Currently it's just a small gym. So there's not a lot of use for that building for us at this time. There's not a lot of wiggle room with what we can do. And if that was diminished even further, I think it would just be a nail in the coffin for our small business. So I do respectfully object to it being designated as historic. Thank you.
Austin, this is Rhett Gary. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Could you give
Can I
your,
speak now?
yeah, you certainly can if you don't want to wait. Just give your name and your address for the record.
My official name is John Gary, Guerry, 340 Middle Street, Mount Pleasant.
Okay. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Y'all have told us that you were considering designating this house as historic, and it's anything but. My parents built this house in 1953. It was a plan house that came out of a magazine, and in fact, the Cheathams on Pitt Street built the same exact house. They just turned it around. The house wasn't well constructed, and it didn't go through Hugo and some other storms very well, and we've been patching it and keeping it up, but I just don't think there's anything about this house that would warrant historical designation. Other than being in the old village, which it didn't used to be. It used to be Hilliardsville, but the house itself is a nondescript little brick story-and-a-half house. And I just, if we won't ever sell this house if I have anything to do with it, but I will die one day, and somebody may want to tear it down and build a nice house. And the historic designation would prevent that, even if it's my daughter. Can you tell me what the features are that would classify it as historical other than the location?
If that's a question, again, this isn't a question and answer time. It's just for public comment.
Aha, okay. So I have to wait around for my turn during the question and answer time?
If the commission asks any questions, then it'd be appropriate at the item.
Okay, I'll wait. I have a computer problem, so I'm having to use my cell phone to speak, and I hope that works. Thank you.
Lynette, do we have anyone else waiting in the lobby?
No one else is waiting in the lobby.
Okay. I think that's good. Ms. Montgomery, if you're ready, we're to consent motions. I should remember. Ms. Montgomery, can you close the public comment?
Ms. Montgomery, you're muted.
Sorry. All righty. With no one waiting to speak, we can close the public comment and begin consent motions.
Yes, and let me go back over the items where the owners have requested or done or requested opposition, because it would probably be best to go over those items. And I would mention specifically, Ms. Short, if your item for 102 Pitt Street, you probably want to wait because you'll definitely be interested in what I have to say, and I'll also reach back out to you tomorrow about that. But those items are that you should not consent are item 6, 206 Ferry Street, item 8, 100 Friend Street, item 10, 110 Friend Street, item 19, 130 Middle Street, item 20, 202 Middle Street, item 21, 340 Middle Street, item 23, 320 Morrison Street, and item 39, 924 Pitt Street, and also item 38, 834 Pitt Street, as well as the deferred item 102 Pitt Street, which is item 6-1 or VI1. So if there are any consent motions from the commission, and for the consent motion, it should be consent such and such items, list them out per staff recommendation. And that would be the proper wording to use.
All righty. We can begin with number 1, 309 Bennett Street. Shall I just read them all and then say as per staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Number 1, 309 Bennett Street. Number 4, 221.
Sorry, could you? Oh, sorry. Never mind. Go on. Sorry.
All right. My second item I was reading was number 4, 221 Church Street. Number 7, 206 Ferry Street. Number 11, 118 Friend Street. Number 12, 131 Hibben Street, which was the Presbyterian manse for the Presbyterian church here. Number 13, 309 Hibben Street. Number 14, 314 Hibben Street. Number 15, 212 King Street. Wow. Number 20, 202 Middle Street has been asked to be removed. Alrighty. 301 Morrison Street. Yes. 25, 312 Pitt Street.
Ms. Montgomery, I'm going to stop you for a minute. Which one was the previous to number 25?
22, 301 Morrison Street.
Thank you.
All right, 301, excuse me. I'll go back up to number 22, 301 Morrison Street. We're giving yes consents here. Number 25, 312 Pitt Street. Number 28, 503 Pitt Street. Number 29, 510 Pitt Street. Number 36, 27 Pitt Street.
Sorry, that was item 36, 754 Pitt Street.
Number 36, 27 Pitt Street.
There's not a 27 Pitt Street.
I've got a 627 right here. It was the little house that belonged to Francis' sister.
I thought that was, never mind, sorry. I thought you were saying 36 instead of 30. My apologies.
That's all right, 30, number 30, 627 Pitt Street. These are the yes consents. Number 35, 740 Pitt Street. Number 36, 754 Pitt Street. Number 42, 100 Venning Street. Number 43, 303 Venning Street. Number 45, 435 Whildon Street. All those are being presented as a consent to be allowed as historic designation.
Before we get a second, Lynette, Can we, can you read through those just to make sure we're all on the same page before there's a motion for a second? Just so the motion is clear.
Ms. Montgomery, are you asking for item number 20 to be consented as well?
Let me check.
She was not.
No, the caller wants that removed.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. So the numbers, the items that I have that are being motioned for consent approval are items number 1, 4, 7,
Go
11.
slow.
Whoa. Please.
Go slow.
Sorry.
Can you read the address just so everyone?
I didn't have the addresses. All I have are the numbers.
Gotcha.
I have items number 1.
Yes.
Number
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Number 7.
Yes.
11.
Yes.
12.
Yes.
13.
Yes.
14.
Yes.
15.
No.
Okay.
I thought you did say 212 King Street, Miss Montgomery.
I'm sorry about that. That was an error. That is an error. That is no.
Okay.
That's why we're going back through. Number 22.
Yes.
25.
Yes.
28.
Yes.
29.
Oops. Yes.
35.
Wait.
Sorry, there
30.
should be 30.
30.
Okay, missed that one. Sorry. Okay. Number 30. Number 35.
Yes.
36.
Yes.
42.
Yes.
43.
Yes.
And 45.
44. 307 Venning Street, 44. Yes.
And 45.
Yes.
And that concludes the motion, correct?
Yes.
All right, we need a second.
Thank you, Lynette. We need a second for discussion
May
and
we
then,
have yes. May we have a second for the addresses presented for consent, please?
and if there are any that any of you want to discuss, we can discuss them after the second, before the vote.
Correct. Let's hear a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Having been moved and seconded, we can now discuss. We will discuss the removal as in number 10. Mrs. Woody wants hers deferred or removed.
No, right now we're specifically discussing the motion for recommending those that you listed in your motion, Ms. Montgomery. So
Okay.
the commission members can pipe in. You might want to ask each of them individually if they have any that they would like to discuss later on during the item, and then we can have a separate, basically an amended motion to remove those from the consent.
All
motion.
right. For discussion amongst the members, Corey, you want to start with any comment?
I had 206 Ferry as like a question mark that I thought maybe we should discuss.
That was removed by owner.
No, that they asked for to be. They asked for, there was an owner request to stay on for later. I guess that was items number 6 and 7, since it is 206. They have an accessory structure.
But the gentleman wrote a letter about how the house really should be demolished. It's in a flood zone, and it's concrete block on the corner of Hibben and Ferry. Pitt and Ferry.
Was it not included in the list? Am I
Yeah,
mistaken?
Lynette, was number 7 included?
Number 7 is included in the motion for approval.
Ms.
Should it have
Montgomery?
been- should
No,
it have been
I don't
should it have
believe-
been 200? Number
No,
5?
Excuse me, number 5 was a no, and number 206 were also a no, because number 6 wants the house demolished eventually.
Okay.
Right. Ms. Montgomery, you mentioned number 7 in your motion for consent, which is the accessory structure to 206 Ferry Street. Did you mean a different number?
I wanted that as a no. Excuse me.
Okay. Lynette, I guess that was number 7 is actually a no. If you could remove that from
That's
the motion.
okay.
That was
We'd actually just have to amend the agenda to remove it. But
Well,
if you want to finish going through and seeing if anyone else has any others that would like to be removed, then we can amend the agenda all at once.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a few. I have my notes separate from the sheet that was most recently sent out, so I might not have the same numbers. Were the numbers changed?
No. They were strike through. So, Mr.
Okay.
Crossland, we're specifically on the items that Ms. Montgomery listed for consent motions. So, any that you might not want to be removed but weren't listed in the motion for consent, we'll get to as we get to them during the meeting proceeding.
Okay, so we're actually going to call out each number as we go along?
Yes, unless they were consent motions.
Well, yeah, I have a couple that were no's that are in the consent motion.
Okay. Yeah, if you could provide the number and the address, and we'll see about any removing them from that motion.
Well, I don't have them identified one by one because I wasn't annotating as she was going through the list. I have Bennett Street as a no, which is the first one.
Okay.
I have number 4 as a no, which is 221 Church Street.
Okay.
I have, let's see, 6 as a no, 206 Ferry. That's the one we've already discussed. I have ten as a no.
That wasn't in the consent, but go on.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
Yeah.
I have 118 Friend Street as a no.
Okay, that was.
I have the
I'm
parsonage.
sorry, what number is that again?
118 Friend Street, number 11.
Thank you.
I have 131 Hibben Street as a no. That's the parsonage, former parsonage.
And what number is that one?
That is number 12.
Thank you.
Number 13.
Sorry, Lynette. I can't hear over your typing for RN.
So 309.
As a no?
As a no.
Okay.
Oh no! Wait a minute. No, I have that as a yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. The Hope House, 314 Hibben. I have that as a no.
Let me go through the ones that were in the consent motion, and you can see what your notes were on them, Mr. Crossland. How about that? So we can get through this. So the next one was number 22, 301 Morrison.
How about 19?
119 was not included in the motion. Number 22 is the next one.
Okay. Have that as a yes. That's fine.
Okay. And then the next one is number 25, 312 Pitt Street.
Yes.
Okay. The next one is number 28, 503 Pitt Street.
Yes.
Okay. The next one is number 29, 510 Pitt Street.
Yes.
Number 30, 627 Pitt Street.
Yes.
Okay. Next one is number 35, 740 Pitt Street.
Yes.
Next is number 36, 754 Pitt Street.
Yes.
Next one is number 42, 100 Venning Street.
Yes.
Next is number 43, 303 Venning Street.
Yes.
Next is number 44, 307 Venning Street.
No.
Okay. And number 45, 435 Wilden Street.
Yes.
Okay. Gene or Corey, did you have any that you did not want on the consent motion outside of those already listed?
I don't think
You have to take yourself off mute to hear you.
Can you hear me, Austin?
Yes, sorry.
I don't think I have any additional ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Mr. Gallagher?
The consent motion was for saying yes to the ones we just went over, right?
Yes, and Mr. Crossland is going to make a motion to amend that motion so that we hear a few more of them. But did you have any others in
I did
addition to
not.
his? Okay.
I did not have any others that I would have said no that were for a yes consent.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Crossland, back to you.
Austin?
Yes. Sorry.
We do have, I think it's a homeowner that with their hand up, I think would like to make a comment regarding the consent motion.
We can do public comment, but
Yeah, we need to do public comment if he would like one of the items removed from consent because
that's true.
of an objection.
Yeah, Ms. Montgomery, can you open public comment for the consent item?
We're getting an awful lot of feedback as the consent motion has been read and discussed. We now have a citizen in the congregation who wishes to discuss.
Mr. Wall, you can go ahead and unmute and if you would like to make a comment.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that my house is no longer up for being recognized as being historic. Is that what that means?
What's your address?
100 Friend Street.
That was not included in the motion for consent. It'll be reviewed later on in the meeting. Bucky.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion?
There's no one else waiting.
Okay. Mr. Crossland, just so we can get your amended motion correct, could you write these numbers down as we go through and so you can make your motion properly? Because I got them for if you are the one that's wanting to make a motion, if you are.
Yes, I didn't.
Okay. So the numbers that you wish to have removed, if you could write them down just so we get the motion correct so you can restate it, is number 1, 309 Bennett Street.
Okay.
Number 4, 221 Church Street.
Okay.
Number 7, 206 Ferry Street. Sorry, someone's phone is going off. If you could put yourself on mute. Thank you. The next item, are you still with me, Mr. Crossland?
Yes.
Okay. Next item is number 11, 118 Friend Street.
Okay.
Number 12, 131 Hibbins Street.
Okay.
Number 14314 Hidden Street.
Okay.
Number, let's see, 44307 Venning Street. And that's it. So we would just need a motion from you asking for those to be removed from the consent item, and then a motion, and then a second, and then a vote on the amended motion, and then we'll handle the rest.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the items just designated by Mr. Rutherford be removed from the consent motion.
Mr. Crossland, we need you to at least give us the numbers, just so we're clear.
Okay, 1, 4, 7, 11, 12, 14.
And 44, sir?
And 44. Yep.
Okay, I also had down number 13. Is that correct, or is that one okay to consent for approval?
He reversed that one.
Yeah,
He said it by accident. Yeah.
Thank you.
May I say that home was,
Louisa,
Sorry, sorry.
we need a second to the motion.
oh,
And then we
yes,
can discuss it.
yes. A motion has been made. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank
All
you.
right, so, yeah, let
Can
me
I-
explain. Yeah.
Are you going to list,
so
are you
we're,
going to list the final rundown?
Yeah.
Okay.
we can, yes. So right now, we're,
Discuss.
right. We're purely discussing the amended motion. You're in discussion for that, and then Ms. Montgomery can call for the vote on the amended motion, and then we'll have a separate vote for the motion altogether as amended. So that's the way this one works. So just making that clear.
All righty. Are we ready for any more discussion on this?
When
I
are
will-
we going to list the final rundown?
When we get to the final vote, this is for the vote on the amendment.
This
Okay.
is correct. So we are having discussion on Mr. Crossland's revision of the consent items. I'd like to interject here that number 13309 Hibben Street was the home of Mayor Francis Coleman from 1946 till 1967. This is
Ms.
a
Montgomery,
gentleman.
that's still included.
Very good. I didn't want to miss Poppy.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else? Are we ready for a motion?
You actually need to call for the vote on the amendment.
Okay. All in favor of the amended consent
Aye.
presentation, say aye. Aye. Any noes? Carried unanimously.
All right, thank you. So,
And I
You-
can
what-
run through all of, so the amended motion is for consent approval for items number 13, 22, 25, 28, 29, 30, 35, 36, 42, 43, and 45.
you can discuss further, or if no discussion, Louisa, you can also call for the vote.
I think since Lynette has read everything and nobody said anything, let us go ahead and vote on the consent motions as amended, voted upon, approved. So let's vote for the whole package as we
Okay.
approved it, or as we have discussed it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I don't think we got all the ayes in there. Could you
I'm
kick yourself off?
still double checking my numbers. You guys are going too fast.
Okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
I can read them again if you'd like, Corey.
I have them all. I'm just double checking
Okay.
that I'm in agreement to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm almost there.
Okay.
Okay.
Help to do it.
Are we ready for the vote now? All in favor?
Aye.
of those presented as through the amended consent vote, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the vote carries. Let us proceed.
All right. Here are the properties under consideration for historic designation recommendation to the town council. Just for you out there that are looking to review, this change going from 1936 to a rolling 50-year date was made by the town council last year. The commission decision tonight is only a recommendation that proceeds to town council. Public hearing before town council will be scheduled in the future to review these items that have been recommended by the commission, in which case all the property owners will receive further communication. Please note, some of the properties are listed as contributing up to 1960 in the 2010 survey. This means that if the town had a rolling 50-year date, in 2010, these properties would have conceivably been designated or gone through this process in 2010 for historic eligibility. As those properties are listed within the National Register area, which extends from Shem Creek to McCants Drive. Again, the HDPC makes recommendations based upon the criteria listed in section 156.432B of the zoning code. I won't go through all of these as we did in the first meeting. These are available on the town website. Again, if you look at section 156.432B1, and the recommendation sections will appear for each item.
Austin.
Yes.
Austin. I have a question. Are you discussing 102 Pitt Street during this deferred item staff report?
Yeah, yes, that'll be at the end.
The end of what?
It's near the end of the agenda.
Yeah, is this what, well, I'm looking at my agenda. I mean,
yes, we'll discuss it then. I have it in the presentation.
I thought you were at the end.
No, we're at the beginning.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Item number 1 is 309 Bennett Street, which was built in 1940. Significant architectural features, you can read them there. Again, this was listed as contributing to the district up to 1960. Therefore, staff's recommendation is historic based on the criteria of 156.432B1E. And that concludes the staff report. You're open to discuss.
We're going to just discuss that one right now?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Crossland, this was one that you specifically took off. If you had any comments regarding it.
Yes, I thought that the reasoning was insufficient to declare this historic. And if it were 2 blocks over, nobody would give it a thought about being historic. Unless there's something that is known about it that I don't know.
I think my take on this whole historic district and its purpose is that we want to save things that show examples of the time. We don't want everything to be bulldozed and look like it was built in 2019.
Yeah, but everybody under E, you could pretty much list everything. I mean, E is kind of a catch-all. Anything built in a certain period is going to have characteristics of that period.
Yeah, and we're supposed to preserve that unless it has been modified beyond recognition or, has another issue, like it's been flood damaged and has lost, critical pieces of the character.
Well,
I will note that it was listed as contributing in the 2010 survey for up to 1960. It is in the National Register area, and that's.
And being historic doesn't mean you can't add on to it later if someone wanted to do an addition. It doesn't mean you can't touch it at all.
Austin, may I speak to this?
Yeah. Of course, we're in discussion.
Robert, the Weston family lived there. Julian Weston, for whom the Weston Park is named, commonly known as the Dog Park by the tennis courts. The Weston family lived there. Mr. Weston served on Mr. Francis Coleman's town council for about 20 years. And it doesn't have the piazza. It doesn't have what we think of being a village home. And it has been added on to. The Westons raised 4 children in that house with only 1 bathroom upstairs. There has been a lot added on to the rear. And that side that you see on the left was added on to enlarge the kitchen. So it has been tampered with, but I feel that it has the graceful aspects of a comfortable village home of the 1920s, 30s, pre-World War II.
And I think it was pretty normal for people to like build what they needed and then add on when their family grew. Like that's not an odd thing.
It was never added on till after they left. The new people.
Can I say it was all in a little bit of time and just say, let's see who said, we know Bob is against it. Can we take a straw poll and then see if there's 3 that are for it, we can go on to the next thing, correct?
Yeah.
You
Can we just see if there are 3 for?
Mr. Gallagher, if you want to make a motion to recommend it, you can certainly do that.
I would like to make a motion that we take a straw poll to see where we all stand here and see if there's 3 of us that agree it, then we can move forward. Not spend all night on one thing.
Right. We don't take a straw poll, but we just need a recommendation. If all 4 have commented on, if all 4 of you have been able to make your comments, then we can move on to a vote.
I'll recommend, that we designate it, or I forget the wording.
Yeah, it's.
I motion that we
make
recommend this to town council.
Okay, perfect. And could you list the criteria?
Item E.
Okay.
For 156.432B1E.
Is there a second?
Second.
If you can have further discussion, or you can move on to the vote. If Mr. Crossland has any other points, or
I just think the bar's too low on it, but I'm happy for you guys to go ahead and vote for it. I'm against it.
Are we ready for
Specimen House?
Call for the vote?
I can take a roll call vote.
Okay.
That'd be appropriate.
As soon as my computer cooperates. Here we go. Mr. Crossland?
No.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Motion passed 3-1.
All right. Item number 2 was removed by staff. So we're moving on to item number 3, which is 222 Center Street, which was built in 1948. You can see the significant architectural features here on the left, and we can also review them later on. Again, this one is beneath McCants or south of McCants Drive, so it would have never gotten a contributing up to 1960 either way, since it's not in the National Register area. However, it is recommended as historic because it does have the significant architectural characteristics of a post-World War II home. Moving further in on this one, I would mention it is kind of relative to what you would expect from a beach home of the period. Sorry, my something's messing up here. There we go. Sorry about that. And what you'll find is that back when it was built, in the very least, Mount Pleasant did have a beach. So it was reflective of having some of that more beach architecture that you'd normally find maybe on Sullivan's Island or on IOP, or as it was known at the time, Long Island, in the village. So that's the end of the staff report.
Well, Austin, excuse me just a minute. 222 on our list says it was built in 1948.
Yes, ma'am.
Beach Street was way gone by then. This was not built to be a beach home or even near the beach. In fact, a concrete block on the bottom, and then they slapped asphalt shingles on the top. No.
All right.
Yeah, asbestos, excuse me, thank you. I've got a big no on that one.
What is, you just don't like the asbestos shingles, or?
No, they're necessary, they're needed, and they're there. And no, it's just, it does not have the grace or the ambiance that you would expect for a village home. No one would walk by it and say, gee, I wish I lived in a village house like that.
That's our review, though. Not all these homes are grand and, fantastic.
I know that. Believe me, I live in one. But there it has the escalator staircase.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could go either way, because this is like a perfect example of like construction of that time. But I don't, the things about it that make it, iconic of the time are the exposed block and the asbestos shingles. So you would essentially be preventing someone from changing that, which is what we do on other houses that are different siding materials. So I can see it both ways. This is an example of a type of construction in an era, and it seems pretty well preserved. It's kind of similar to the house on Middle Street that they just painted. There's only a few of these around that I've noticed.
All of which should be taken off any historic consideration.
Just because you don't like the style of it is what it sounds like.
It doesn't lend itself to the ambiance of they're just not graceful.
I think the point of the old village is that there's variety. It's not Park West. It's not,
Right.
these cookie cutter neighborhoods.
You're exactly right. This is my objection to the large homes all being painted white. We don't want to have a cookie cutter neighborhood.
I mean, just imagine this being one of those huge white homes. That's what's going to happen. Expected if you don't designate it.
I would mention we do need to get Mr. Crossland and Mr. Gallagher's comments or discuss if they
I think if we were to take a roll call, we'd find out that there was a majority that voted against this house.
I don't regard this as a specimen house of that period or having any great architectural significance.
So if anyone wants to recommend that we, or do make a motion that we do not recommend this one, it may be the appropriate time.
I'll make a motion that we do not recommend this one.
Second.
Any further discussion on 222 7th Street? All in favor of removing it from historic?
Yeah, you probably want to call for a roll call vote.
Already.
I certainly can. Mr. Barber?
No.
Mr. Gallagher?
The motion was that it be removed, right?
Correct.
The motion is that we do not recommend it.
Then I'm in favor of not recommending it.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Crossland?
I'm in favor of not recommending it.
Ms. Montgomery?
Not recommending.
Thank you. Motion passed 3-1.
Right, we are on to 221 Church Street. Again, the significant architectural features are listed here per the survey. This property was listed as contributing up to 1960. So in the National Register, it is recommended as historic, as it meets the criteria of Section E, and again was listed as contributing. That concludes the staff report. If we could go to any discussion.
I had it, if I may just speak right here, I had it as historic in that it is a cottage. It is a distinctive.
But it's not grand.
Excuse
it's not
me.
ambiance.
It's a distinctive low country cottage, complete with front porch. It is probably in a flood zone, but that's not our problem. That's the owner's problem. I had that as yes, it's historic.
Austin, I mean, I don't know if people are unsure of what the flood issue is, but like you can raise a historic home if it needs to be raised, correct?
You could raise a historic
Or lift
home.
it.
Yes. You can lift a historic home as long as, again, with any improvements or alteration, as the design is conducive to the home itself. So if you did obviously if you did a concrete block, lifting the home or whatever, that would not be appropriate. But if you did something with, the appropriate, louvers and stuff like that, to make sure that it's not a in-your-face type of foundation or whatever, that would be appropriate. And also, as a historic property locally designated, you can request to the Board of Construction Adjustments for the town to ask for a variance from the flood regulations. That doesn't get you out of everything, you still have to raise up certain elements that you can raise up, like your HVAC and other stuff like that, all elements that you possibly could, but it at least potentially has the means of not making sure that you don't have to raise the home itself.
Yeah, I just think from the public comment, it sounded like people are confused in that they think if their home is designated, then they can never resolve their flood issue, and that's not the case. So I think that's just good to make clear to everyone listening.
Well, might I interject here under the B1A, having inherent character, interest, or value as part of the development or heritage of the community. And at one time, there were a lot of people in Mount Pleasant who lived in cottages like that. Perhaps they're fishermen, shrimpers, but there were a lot of people who were just regular working people.
But that's like an argument for the last house that you just denied. You're contradicting yourself when you're.
No, this one has the character of an older home. The one down at 222 Center does not have the character of an older home.
So why don't we see?
And you voted, and then we moved on.
I know. I'm bringing up the issue of like you're using a supporting point for one house that actually could have been used on the previous house.
That's apples and oranges.
Opinion. That's what we're talking. That's why we're talking.
So we do need to move through these in a timely manner. If Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Crossland have anything to say, Mr. Crossland did have this removed from consent, so he may want to give a little spiel.
Basically, I wanted to have discussion on this one, which we're having.
Okay.
I had it as a maybe. I kind of wanted to hear the pluses and
I also had it as a maybe, Robert, because when I went by it, it's in an odd location. It's not a location that most people are happening upon as they're strolling through the old village. And I would just, it's not, I feel like it has a lot of other issues going on there, and handcuffing the owner, could be detrimental to them. I don't know.
Well, that was why I was undecided on it, because it didn't look like it was pristine. Kind of shackish in some ways.
Well, now it sounds like you're going backwards both ways and saying that it's handcuffing people when just before you said it didn't handcuff people and people could add on to it or they could raise it.
It's a working man's cottage. and I think we need to recognize it as a working man's cottage because it is that.
Okay, since we've had discussion, Louisa, it sounded like you wanted to add item A to any motion.
Yes,
So if you want to make a motion, it'd be recommendation, you can add item A to item E.
in recommending 221 Church Street for historic recommendation, I would feel it meets 156.432B1A and E criteria as contributing.
Okay. And we just need a second.
Second.
Any more discussion? May we have a vote?
Certainly.
All
Mr. Barber.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Crossland?
No.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Tie vote, so motion fails.
So you can either further discuss to break the tie, or we could also, you could also vote for deferral to a future meeting, in which we could further discuss at that time.
Or the third option would be that it would just go to town council with no recommendation.
It actually needs a recommendation per the code, so they have to have a vote. Or you could vote for a recommendation, vote for denial, or not recommendation, or you could vote for deferral to a future meeting, in which case I can try to find some further information on it to sway either way.
Maybe even ask the owner.
Okay.
Lots.
Was that a motion, Mr. Crossland?
Yes, I would like to make a motion for deferral.
Okay.
I second.
Can you do it all in favor?
Excuse me, Austin, what?
Ms. Montgomery, could you make a motion for a all in favor motion, or excuse me, ask that?
I thought someone else moved for a deferral and I seconded it.
So
Yes,
we have
ma'am.
a motion on the floor. Mr. Crossland made a motion for deferral. Ms. Montgomery seconded the motion.
Right?
All in
Is that all?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries for deferral.
Number 5 is 200 Ferry Street, built in 1951. You can see its architectural significant features here. It was listed as contributing up to 1960 in the survey. Recommendation is historic based on criteria E. If there's any discussion.
I mean, my first instinct was to say yes on this one. I don't know what you guys thought.
I would note staff's reasoning. This is obviously more of a ranch type home. It does have, I would say, the very, I guess, for lack of better terms, the good styling points emblematic of a ranch home, especially on the front. You can't really get that from this picture, but from the entryway has the styling of a, the kind of the A-rated type of ranch.
I felt like this house is just, it's like sited really well, and I feel like it contributes to the neighborhood.
I had a problem with it because I remember when it was wooden and it was bricked in. But looking at the picture, it does have a very pleasing exterior and could be considered viewed as an historic atmosphere about it. But I just have a thing about people bricking in wood houses. So,
I find it just to be a kind of garden variety, given this area and the groves and all of the other. I mean, there are numerous examples of this architecture throughout the old village and beyond. I mean, I can't imagine somebody wanting to go in there and tear it down, but I don't regard it as a great specimen.
Okay. Mr. Gallagher?
I think it's a very attractive ranch, and I would vote in favor of it.
I think one thing to say, Robert, is, like, this is like the only part of town where we're even declaring any of this stuff. So, like, I think when it exists in other parts of the town, that's great, but anything could happen and they could all be wiped out. Like, this is the only part of town where we're doing anything.
All right. If that's the end of the discussion, we can go, if anyone has a motion.
Question.
Yes.
Thinking about what just was spoken, if a huge hurricane came and wiped that house off the map, would it have to be rebuilt as is if we declared it historic?
It would not have to be, either way, it would not have to be declared, it would not have to be rebuilt as is if it was wiped off, if it was completely destroyed. Just because that's not the point of the historic designation. It's to keep it as is, unless there is a act of God or a human related event that destroys it, but starting a fire, from the kitchen, or whatever might happen. Obviously the village has suffered through a few of those over the years, from Hugo and elsewise, but it wouldn't have to be rebuilt as is.
Yeah, I mean, nothing lasts forever. Something will happen to it eventually.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll do the motion. You want to throw up the sheet?
Yes, sorry.
I motion that we recommend as historic as it meets 156.432B1E.
Could you state the address? Sorry.
200 Ferry Street.
There we go. We just need a second.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion? We seem to have discussed it to death. Let's have a vote. All in favor?
Well, could you ask Lynette for a roll call, please?
Oops, okay.
Mr. Crossland?
No.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
When you say no, are you saying
The motion is for approval, to recommend approval of a historic designation for 200 Ferry Street based on section 156.432B1E.
May I hear the roll call again?
Mr. Crossland voted no, Mr. Gallagher voted yes, Mr. Barber voted yes, and Ms. Montgomery votes?
No.
Thank you. Motion fails due to a tie vote.
And again, you could ask for a deferral to the next meeting if that's the route you want to go, or you can also try to find a way to break the tie. With a different motion.
I think deferral is the best course of action in something like this, which gives us an opportunity to go by and look at the ones that we do not agree on, just so we can eyeball it once again at a closer level. So I'd like to recommend a deferral.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I'll
And a second? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passed.
All right, 206 Ferry Street. Sounds like we have already discussed this one. I would mention it was recommended, it was listed as contributing up to 1960. And therefore, that's where the staff recommendation comes from.
Also, could you explain to us a little bit what contributing up to 1960 means?
The, how would you put it, the consultant that the town hired in 2010 in consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office, I believe it was a worker from them that, or can, helps with, often with theirs, was their recommendation. in 2010.
Out of the 158 that are under consideration, how many were regarded as contributing?
I think about 75 or so, probably about half.
Of the ones that that have now eclipsed the 50-year?
Yes, probably about half.
Austin, I have a concern. The gentleman who owns this house states that due to the poor condition and inferior construction, it should not be considered historic.
If you want to make that into a motion, you can make that into a motion.
I'd like to move the 206 Ferry Street not be considered historic.
I second that.
Any discussion on this? Nobody says anything? Let's call for a vote. All in favor of voting no on this 206 Ferry, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any objection? All carried.
All right. The next one is the accessory structure, and I would say that it would be inappropriate to have a historic accessory structure with a non-historic home. So staff would be switching its recommendation to no at this point for this one, but you can make that a motion or discuss.
I move that we remove that also, the 206
Second.
accessory structure.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor? Excuse me,
Aye.
is it,
Aye.
no discussion? Aye, aye. Any nays?
I'm sorry, was that Mr. Crossland that seconded?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries at the time.
All right. Before we begin, sorry, Lynette, I'm getting some feedback in there. Thank you. Before we begin on Friend Street, I would just mention that part of the reasoning for being considered historic for many of the homes on Friend Street is because of what's happened over the past couple of years. There's one home that was torn down and is currently under construction, which I still don't know from staff's perspective why it was approved by the commission, because it was completely out of place for the street in particular and for the district in general. And if the commission were to not, designate historic many of the other homes, you'll see further degradation. What staff presented of that streetscape for Friend Street. So that's just something to think about for the ones here that we'll discuss on Friend Street. 100 Friend Street, built in 1958. Significant architectural features are listed here. It was listed as contributing up to 1960. Assessor recommendation is historic based on criteria E, and that it was listed as contributing. And that concludes staff's recommendation. If there's any discussion or a vote?
I have a question for you, Austin. Like this home is concrete block, exposed. Like if it's historic, would someone be allowed to like cover that with a different siding of their choice? Or like I feel like the massing and siding of the home fits the character of the neighborhood very well, but I could see where like the main hang up would be like having the concrete block be some permanent element till the end of time. I just don't know what the if it's historic, what would be the requirement on that?
I mean, that would be up to the commission at the time and what the homeowner was requesting. There are a few cement block homes in the village that were stuccoed. This one I don't think is stuccoed from memory. There's one down the road on Friend Street that I think is at least partially stuccoed. So it would really just depend on the nature of the request and the commission's interpretation at that time.
Okay.
Here again, we've got a home that could possibly have a second story put on it.
And the design guidelines would typically state that that shouldn't be allowed. I would just mention that.
How do you feel about that, Gene?
I do not think it looks historic to me. I mean, I
You live in a house that's second story put on in the historic district.
I think he's breaking up.
Who broke up?
I think Gene.
Gene, I think, is probably having computer problems. He said he was having some earlier. He'll be on soon enough, I'm sure.
Yes, his telephones have been on the fritz too.
But anyhow, Gene's house used to be a one-story, and 12 years ago, a second story was added. Actually, a first story was added because it was raised.
Correct.
Well, this home, I don't think, is in a flood-prone area, is it, Austin?
As memory serves, the back of the neighboring lot is, but there is a steep decline for the neighboring property pretty abruptly as it goes to the parking lot of the church behind it.
And down to Ashley Woody's house at 118.
I can't specify, obviously, if we were hit by another Hugo, obviously that would be well above even, flood regulations, but I can't specify offhand whether or not this home is within a flood zone now or will be in a flood zone come January 29th when the new flood zones come out or official.
Yeah, I mean, I only brought it up because, like raising or lifting a concrete block house that's presumably, I mean, it's kind of like not as easy, obviously, as a wood frame building. So
it can be done. It's just, again, harder.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I know some people's view on the one-story homes is negative, but if everything looks the same, then we don't really have like a unique neighborhood. So, like, I'm on the fence on this one, but I feel like some one-story homes should be preserved. And this one doesn't look like it's been modified too much from its original construction. So maybe this is a good one. I don't know.
Well, I also think there's a reason to err in favor of the owner having more freedom to, or you remember, anytime anybody wants to do something in the historic district, they got to come to us to talk about it. So, I mean, I always say err on the side of the homeowner, allowing them the freedom to make some decisions, and then they have to propose them to us anyhow. So, what's the purpose?
Okay.
Good point.
Ms. Montgomery, if you had any discussion, and then we can have a motion.
Well, I like what you had to say before we get into that, what you said about protecting the street, because the street has been butchered. And perhaps having that there as an historic anchor on the corner, even though that's a very old picture. You may recall we had to have them cover that living fence with another sort of fence because that fence was illegally put up. So I don't like having these real old pictures for us to look at. I hope the house has not been altered like the fence has been. Okay. Any other discussion on this?
I mean, the other.
Excuse me, Austin, could I speak?
Sorry, Bucky. I thought you. We can give you another 3 minutes if you'd like.
Sure. Well, the house is in a flood zone. This is an old picture. The picture is probably 3 or 4 years old. The house now has vinyl windows. We did do an addition to the back, about a 600 square foot addition to the back that doesn't match the concrete block of the existing home. We would prefer it not be designated as a historical dwelling.
I second that. His wife and homeowner of 100 Friend.
Can we ask questions of the homeowners, Austin?
Yes.
I guess I'm just like curious, what is your main worry or reservation?
All of the hoops we have to jump through to get anything done for our house, and
Would just be more.
yeah, it would just be more if it's historical, and it's not historical, and it's too late to preserve the integrity of Friend Street since those houses have been going up. So we continue. We'll keep our house the way it is. We love our house the way it is, but we don't want it to be historical.
I think everyone kind of has to jump through some level of hoops, and that's kind of what like everyone benefits from. So the more people that have to jump through more hoops, presumably the nicer the neighborhood will get and be.
It's hard to understand that with the huge house that's going up next to us.
Yeah, I understand that was not ideal.
Yeah, so that's why I want to keep, I don't want our house to be historical.
Can I ask if the house were designated historical, what does that mean in terms of somebody wants to buy it? Could they alter it? Could they add a second floor to it? Could they tear it down? I guess they couldn't tear it down.
It makes it more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, the point of the historical designation is so that it maintains its existence. It doesn't mean you can't maintain your house or upgrade things here and there. It just you got to go through the review process.
Which I would may add would have to be done either way, for depending on the alteration. So
right, but it's more challenging if it's a historical home.
Well, I always say
potentially
they're in the direction of the homeowner, and I would like to make a motion at this point, if discussion is closed, that we reject this as a historical home.
I second that.
Second. Okay. Lynette, could you do roll call? I'm not sure if Gene has been able to get on.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So Gene, if you couldn't hear, the motion is to not do a recommendation for historic.
I got it.
So Lynette, could you do a roll call?
Mr. Barber,
I'd say no.
Mr. Galloway,
I agree with the motion that it not be designated historic.
Okay.
Mr. Crossland,
Yes, not historic.
Miss Montgomery.
Correct, not historic, no.
Okay.
Motion passed 3-1.
All right. 109 Friend Street. Similar reasoning as the last one. It was recommended. It was listed as contributing up to 1960, and that concludes the staff recommendation. Oh, and this one was built in 1950, and I'll leave that picture up for you. Discussion, motion.
I thought the other house was kind of a better example, but I don't know. I mean, Friend Street's going to look like the house everyone hates if we don't do anything.
Not necessarily.
But everyone who wants to build is going to want to build their 5,000 square foot dream home.
But that's kind of, discretion of a homeowner. And then they have to come to us and say, hey, do you think this is a better, a more harmonious house than the one that exists? Plus, tearing down a house, I mean, you got to pay a lot of money to buy a lot with a house on it and then turn around and tear it down. This is not a decision that people come lightly to. And they got to come to us anyhow.
I will mention that the maximum for anything, for impervious coverage or BAR or anything, there's the maximum of 5,500 is the theoretical maximum. You may be limited due to zoning considerations that your lot is too small to carry the 5,500, or you may be limited because of design considerations, in which case the commission could determine that the home that is proposed is out of character and it needs to be reduced based upon the streetscape and the homes around it. So just throwing that out there.
Right. So, I mean, anything done within the historical district has to come before us again anyhow.
Yeah, but from my limited experience, there seems to be a tendency to allow demolition. So that's my observation. I mean, it seems unfair to like say, you know, the last person isn't historic, but this one is. I feel like they're equal examples. So, you know, if you guys don't think it's historic, then, you know, it's 3-1, obviously.
Well, Ms. Montgomery, Mr. Gallagher, if you had any discussion, and then we can have a vote or a motion.
I had this down as a no on my paper.
Okay.
Not historic.
Mr. Gallagher?
I had it as a no also.
All right, if someone wants to make a motion.
Make a motion that 109 Friend Street not be designated historic.
I'll
Any second?
I'll second.
And Lynette for a roll call.
Mr. Crossland?
Yes. Yes, I'm in favor of the motion that I just made.
Correct. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes, being no history. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
No
Motion
history.
passed.
Yes.
All right.
No history.
110 Friend Street, the homeowner did call in to ask for opposition. Same as the one before, built in 1951. Discussion, or you can go straight to a vote. It sounds like that's what you're wanting to do anyway.
Let's go to a vote.
You just need to make a motion.
I make a motion to not be designated not historic.
Second.
You can have discussion now if anyone
Yes.
wants
Is there
to
any
discuss it.
discussion on this home?
I mean, I thought this one actually looked nicer than the other two and was a better example, but
It really is. It's not a ranch. It does have the steep gables that we expect of a home in the area. I actually was on the fence about this one, having the concerns that the owner has about the flooding of her property owing to the building to the left of it. So I don't. What do you do in a case like this, Austin? If we say it's historic, can she still lift it for flooding concerns? Yes, she can.
Ma'am. Or it can be, if there are improvements, again, there's the Construction Board of Adjustments route. That's a potential.
It is one of its kind, and as one of the gentlemen mentioned before, it's the kind of thing you'd see in the groves. But there again, the house that was cladded with brick down on the waterfront, 200 Ferry, was the same thing. Looked like it'd be in the groves. This is a groves house, but however, it's not a cookie cutter. And I would really like to see it as being historic.
I agree with that. And I would just make the comment, this reference to the groves. The groves was like a tract of land that was all developed in a pretty condensed period of time.
Yes.
And that's not what the old village is. And it's just that these homes happen to be built during that same construction boom.
Correct.
So I don't think calling it a groves house is necessarily, accurate, but
not detrimental. I mean, it's just of that style that was used a great deal of that in the period by
I'm
developers.
just saying, because it's in the groves doesn't mean it can't be in the village.
Right.
It's also very typical of the homes that are 2-3 streets away.
I
Can-
would
can I
mention
speak?
that from staff's perspective that one of the reasonings behind the ordinance change last year was not just to change to the rolling 50-year, but to also make it more conducive towards future historic districts, mainly on the other side of Royal. So you're talking about potentially Indian Village or the old village settlement community, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Well, there's also some like
I was
extremely old homes sprinkled in over there too. Like there's the one on Freeman Street that someone's renovating right now, which is as old as a lot of the other homes that we think of as the penultimate historic home. So I just think referencing to 2 streets over is a little bit irrelevant, but I see the point.
May I speak?
Oh, the homeowner? Yes,
Yes,
you can have another 3 minutes.
I'm the homeowner, and I understand where you're going with this, trying to preserve somewhat of the character of Friend Street, of the street that was so wonderful when we bought our house 25 years ago. But the horse is out of the barn, and they've built all these. There's houses on our street that have sold for over $2 million. And so I'm just worried. I know that you want to, or thank you, Louisa, for thinking my house is charming. Because of course I think it's charming. Anyway, I just don't know what is the best way to want this to work out. I know Waringhow next door to me at 118, he's not going anywhere, and he doesn't care. He came home from the hospital 67 years ago as a baby to that house. And the house across the street, Father Tisdale's house, which some people from New York bought it, and it's been a rent house for about the last 3 or 4 years. And I know that they're going to bulldoze that one and build another Mac Daddy over there. I think they were just waiting for all the other construction to be done, so there wasn't so much traffic on the street. And anyway, I admire what y'all are trying to do, but I think for Friend Street, it's just too late, which breaks my heart. And so that's what I have to say about it. Thank you for your time.
I have a question, please. This house is very reminiscent of the house I live in on the corner of Hibben and Church. And of course, I painted my brick because it was not an attractive brick. Therefore, mine will never be considered historic. If yours were painted brick, that's something you could, if you painted it, you couldn't do that if it were declared historic. You'd have to leave it as is. But then on the other hand, not being painted, being a brick home gives it a distinctive character that I think the street needs.
And there is, room for future potential. Like if you wanted to lift it and add on to it, or a future owner did, like no one's locking you into your square footage that you have now. By doing this, but that being said, it is, harder to fit more square footage on a 1.5 story home than a 2.5 story home. I think future design commissions would be hard for them not to, see what has happened and.
Hello?
Sorry.
I'm sorry, something happened right in the middle of Louisa's question. What is your question?
I don't know did Louisa have a question?
No, not really. I was just discussing the fact that it could never be painted if you wanted to paint the brick. But being unpainted, I think, is part of the charm of it being on Friend Street as an unusual, those steep pitched gable roofs. I just think it's a charming house, and it should be allowed to stay the way it is.
Okay,
I would,
so
I,
there
I,
is a motion on the floor. We do need to get to that motion. If you want to call, if you want to call for the vote, it was for a, Lynn,
oh, I'm just having a technical problem. I don't plan to
Miss
make it.
Miss Woody, I'm sorry, but they're
Yeah.
in the middle of voting, getting ready to vote on a motion. Public comment has been closed.
Oh, I guess.
Lynette,
Yes,
could you repeat the motion? I think it's for a not recommendation.
that is correct. The motion was made by Mr. Crossland to deny the historic designation and seconded by Ms. Montgomery. So, Mr. Crossland.
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Barber.
No.
Ms. Montgomery.
Deny historic.
Motion passed 3-1.
Okay.
All right.
118 Friend Street, similar to the rest on this road, but built in 1952, and that concludes the staff report. If discussion motions,
I think in keeping with all of our other decisions on Friend Street, we should be consistent and say, I'll propose that we vote this non-historic.
Okay.
Second.
You can have some discussion, and then we can go to a vote.
Is there any discussion on this home?
I think the cart's out of the stable.
Yeah, I know.
Realizing, gentlemen, that if we say it's non-historic and somebody does tear it down and wants to put what Mrs. Woody calls a Mac Daddy, we can control that.
Yes.
And I do want to make sure you know that whenever a home comes up for demolition or any structure, you can review it for historic designation again, because that is a part of the zoning code for you to look at it to make sure you could re-review it and come to a different conclusion at that point.
And also, Austin, as I recall, you cannot get approval for demolition until you have your plans for what you're going to build.
Correct.
Okay.
There is no downside for denying historic designation that I can.
No.
So, Lynette, could you, or Ms. Montgomery, could you ask for the vote?
I move that on number 1118.
Ms. Montgomery, we already have a motion on the floor.
Oh, yes. You just need to call for the motion.
All righty, call for the vote. Call for the vote to deny this 118 Friend, to deny historic designation.
All in favor?
Could you say all in favor?
Agreed.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
Is anybody want to take a 5-minute recess?
Yeah, I need a drink of water.
Okay.
Oh,
could you, Ms. Montgomery, could you state we need a 5-minute recess?
I think it's, as chair, I'm asking for a 5-minute recess.
There we go.
Whoa.
Oh, right.
True, thanks, Lisa. I'm in a 5-minute break right now. I hate it. What? That is wonderful. You're pretty white and 21. That's good. Are y'all going to that one?
Lynette, what time did we take the break?
Okay, there we are.
Austin, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, we're getting some feedback on your line, though.
I got it right.
Okay. Could you just put yourself on mute until we get to your item?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go. You got a lot of things to go through here, and there's at the most 6 people online. Can we ask you to go a little bit out of order and take the homes of the people who were online?
I'm sorry, we can't do that because the agenda has already been approved. But could you, and we'll just need you to mute yourself. Sorry. Thank you.
Are we back? Are we all gathered?
I think Lynette isn't back yet.
We gathered together to ask the Lord's blessing. What's that? That's Thanksgiving. We used to sing that in grammar school. He hastens and chastens to make his will known. We are being chastened right now.
Lynette, are you back?
She escaped.
I'll just ask for you guys that are on, let's just make some quick points and then try to move on as speedily as possible.
Get her done. I would be interested to know, how many Presbyterian manses were in the village. Now, this was the home of Mr. Horton, who was married to one of the royal ladies.
Can we wait for discussion?
I'm just thinking out loud to myself.
Okay.
If I don't talk to myself, I'd be amused.
Okay, Austin, I'm back. Sorry.
All right. No worry. I was just waiting. Wait. Are Mr. Crossland and Mr. Gallagher back on? I haven't seen you. See their pictures, so. Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Crossland? We don't have a quorum until they get back, or one of them gets back.
I did mute everyone, so you would need to unmute if you're here.
I've unmuted. I think they went up for the beer. Yeah, that was Jean's job.
Mr. Crossland, Mr. Gallagher, you'll need to unmute yourself. We just want to make sure that you're here for quorum. I guess they're not back.
All right, I think Jean's here now.
Okay.
So I think we're just waiting on Mr. Gallagher.
No, Mr. Crossland.
Mr. Crossland.
I'm here.
Mr. Crossland's
you are?
here.
Okay.
I'm back.
Oh, okay. There we go. Ms. Montgomery, if you could ask for the reconvening.
I would like to reconvene the meeting of October 20th of the PCHD.
Okay. Item number 12 is 131 Hibbins Street, built in 1950. These are the significant architectural features. It was recommended for as a contributing structure up to 1960, and staff's recommendations based on E, and that it was listed as contributing. And that concludes the staff report. Discussion and a vote.
I had this down as a yes because it was built prior to World War II. It is graceful in its presentation of proper gable dormers and a small front porch, and was the home of the Presbyterian minister for the Hibbins, well, what is the name of the Presbyterian church? Mount Pleasant Presbyterian Church. So I vote on keeping it as I had it as a yes.
I'm a member of that church, and we go through a lot of pastors. Every 10 years or so, there's a new pastor. And this same logic applies to Hope House.
Correct.
You know, I think this is a lovely little house. I don't think the fact that it was a pastoral manse in any way makes it special. It's just a part of its history. I mean, it's a lovely little cottage. I don't know why anybody would ever want to change it, but I'm not sure that qualifies it as historically significant.
Okay. Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Barber.
Corey, go ahead.
Oh, it sounds like it's up to you, Mr. Gallagher.
Okay, I had it down on my sheet as a yes.
Okay.
I did too.
There would be historic.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move that we retain it as its historic relevance, 131 Hibbins Street, built in 1950.
Okay.
Second.
Any further? Lynette, can you do a roll call?
Ms. Montgomery, is that based on the section that staff cited?
Right on down to E, 156-432B1E.
Okay, great, thank you. And Mr. Barber? The motion is, okay, thank you. Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Crossland?
I'm a no.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Motion passed 3-1.
All right. Number 13 was consent motion. Going to number 14. Lynette, sorry, can you repeat yourself to mute? Sorry. Thank you. This is known as the garage on our early survey for 314 Hibbins Street, built in circa 1950s. This is behind the Hope House. It was listed as contributing up to 1960. Criteria is E, and again, based that it was contributing. Discussion and a motion?
The Hope House was the one we consented to?
No, the Hope House is already historic. This is the accessory structure behind it.
Okay. And usually you want the accessory to be, with the primary.
Yes, the Hope House is already historic. You do not necessarily have to have a historic accessory with a historic structure. However, it would be more improper to have typically a historic accessory with a non-historic main structure for further reference.
Well, for those of you who might not know, Hope House is a place where the Presbyterian Church houses people and their families when they come in for major surgeries like transplants. It's kind of like a Ronald McDonald House.
Right, yeah.
And the reason I think it would be best not to designate this as historic is because right now that structure is being used as overflow. It's got a little bedroom in it and bath, and at some point they might desire to add additional space for the purpose for which Hope House is intended, which is to take care of people and their families who are here for significant surgeries.
Do you think it would ever be torn down completely?
I don't know. But what I'm saying is that's something that if it ever came up, it would have to come before us anyhow.
Correct. But if they need the room and it's such a ministry, I would be in favor of saying it is not historic. And that way there are no restrictions into elaborating upon the design in order to help the people that are so graciously assisted by the church.
Yeah. And it'll have to come before us anyhow.
Right.
Is this one visible from the street? I'm not sure I was able to see this one.
You basically have to go into their parking lot from the other side, from Live Oak.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole campus there. It's about greater than 1 block. It's almost 2 blocks.
Right.
So is there a motion?
I move that we do not allow it to be considered historic.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Signify by saying
Aye.
no. 3.
Aye.
Okay. 4-0.
0.
Moving on. This one is 2 King Street, significant architectural features, historical information. This one was built by J. Mitchell of the prominent Charleston firm Simmons Lapham, however you pronounce that, and Mitchell for his family in 1952. Staff's recommendation was based on historic, that it was contributing up to 1960, and items C and E. I will note that staff did, since it is currently not historic, did have to do an approval for painting the structure. So the brick is approved to be painted, and that may influence your vote.
It is undergoing a great deal of interior construction at this time, and if it's going to be painted, we did have strict regulations about that in the guidelines. I'm definitely saying a no for history on that one.
Me too. Let's have a motion.
I move that this 212 King Street not be considered historic.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say no.
Aye.
It's I and then nay.
Motion. What?
Nay. All right. All in favor
of not being historic.
Of not being historic. Aye.
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 Any nays?
Motion unanimously passed.
Yes.
Moving on to 114 Live Oak Drive, built in 1958. Here is his architectural features as listed. It was listed as contributing up to 1960, and that leads to the staff recommendation. Is there any discussion and a motion?
I thought this one was a nice example.
Any other discussion? Sorry?
Aren't they 2 or 3 in a row just like that? They were built by Francis Coleman as rental units.
I think the adjacent ones aren't quite as well preserved, though.
Yeah, but once again, if somebody wants to change it, they'd have to come before us anyhow. And I don't regard this as a specimen project here. I mean,
Mr. Gallagher?
I've just got it as a no on my, after having looked at it, I did not think it was historical.
All right. Is there a motion?
there is a motion to deny it historic status.
Okay.
I second.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor of having 114 non-historic, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
One.
Okay.
Carried 3-1.
And then going on to its accessory structure, again, it would be typically improper to have a non-historic, or excuse me, a historic accessory along with the non-historic structure. So that would switch staff's recommendation to a no.
That was built later than 1958.
Oh, all right.
It's a no anyway. So, all right, may we proceed to number 18?
No,
Is that a motion, Ms. Montgomery?
Oops, excuse me. All right, I move that 114 Drive shed be considered non-historic. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of non-historic, say aye.
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 Any nays? Unanimously carried.
Next one is 305 McCormick. Significant architectural features, built in 1959. This one is south of Center, excuse me, of McCants. You can see the staff's recommendation there. Any discussion and then a motion?
They're doing a lot of work on this, aren't they, Austin?
Sam's doing a little bit of interior, and he did. They are repainting it. This is the Lisi's home for those that may know.
It has got a lot of improvements on the exterior. I wish we had newer pictures when they're brought to our attention.
So is that a motion, Louisa, for no? I'm assuming.
It's a motion for newer pictures as well. I move that 305 McCormick be not designated as historic.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of no historic designations signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Aye. But I would like to put Sam Lisi down as one of the best builders and home builders and whatnot in the country.
Motion carried. Unanimous.
Sorry.
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Mr. Gallagher, were you saying that you're in favor of the motion?
Yes, I'm in favor of the motion.
Thank you.
In favor to deny. Okay.
In favor of saying no.
All right. Number 19 is 130 Middle Street, built in 1948. I will note that this is the original home over here. This was a 1970s addition. This was listed. Here's staff's recommendation, and you can discuss and make a motion.
That was a carport that was turned. It was not an addition. There was an open carport. Not that that makes any difference on the left.
Okay.
I kind of think this house is one of the landmarks that people know in the neighborhood, and it's a nicely sited house. I feel
I will. Sorry, I will note that the owner is in opposition and he spoke earlier. So just making sure that you recall that.
It's a lovely house, but I don't think it warrants historic designation.
Mr. Gallagher?
I had it as a yes until I heard from Lisa and John, and I certainly did not want to go against the homeowner, so I would say no.
But, I mean, is that how we operate? The homeowner decides? I'm confused.
Well, I think a homeowner can say he doesn't want to be historic and deny it anyway, so what difference does it make?
Well, you're basing your change of mind on the owner's opinion.
Yeah.
I'll just mention that your recommendation should be based upon the criteria listed in the code. We of course take into account the homeowners, but you should not necessarily, if the owner of the Hibben home came in and said, I want to be removed or whatever, that doesn't oblige you to removing it, and so on and so forth. So I just want to make that clear that your decision is based more upon the provisions of the zoning code.
I mean, the reason we're doing this is because things are older than 50 years old. I know the three of you are a different generation than me, and what's old to you is different than what's old to me. But to me, this is an old home. And it's a nicely done old home. There's a lot of other worse examples that we've looked at.
Any changes, they have to come back to us anyhow, because it's in the historic district. So, I mean...
But we've seen what gets approved. The thing on Friend Street,
it's approved if we approve it. I wasn't here when that was approved.
I understand that, but you're just increasing the chances of something like that happening.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we accept it as an historic home, significant architectural features, the neo-colonial home.
Okay.
As laid out in,
Let me bring it up for you.
Those
There it
numbers,
is.
156.432B1E.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor of retaining an historic designation, please say
Ms.
aye.
Montgomery?
Yes.
I would prefer a roll call on this one, please.
All right.
Thank you. Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagly?
No.
Mr. Crossland?
No.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes, retaining the historic designation.
Okay.
Yes, motion fails on a tie vote 2-2.
Okay.
If you want to have a motion for a deferral, like the other two.
Yes, I would make a motion for deferral.
Do we have a second?
There's no
second.
second.
I'm sorry, Corey, was that you seconding the motion?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion for deferral passed.
Well, yeah, 3-1. I said nay. Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Montgomery. I thought everyone was in favor.
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to 202 Middle Street. Here are the significant architectural features built in circa 1950. And staff's recommendation is for historic designation. Again, as we all know, this was recently repainted. However, paint can be easily repainted over again. So the paint isn't necessarily, shouldn't be a determining factor. It's the architecture.
I mean, I know everyone else's opinion will be different than mine, but I kind of think it's a landmark and representative of an era.
Excuse me just a moment. Didn't someone say they wanted the whole thing removed or to be able to remove it? The owner?
Yes, the owner did call in for opposition for 202 Middle.
I'm going to support the owner.
Okay.
Is there a motion on the floor?
There is no motion on the floor. If you want to make one, you can.
I mean, there's essentially not going to be any more of this type of home in the district.
Let's have a motion made. You want to move that it stay or go?
You can make that yourself, Louisa.
No, I don't want to.
I mean, I'll make the motion that it should be recommended because it's one of the last representatives of this type of construction and era meeting 156.432B1E.
Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. Is there any other motions?
I'd like to make a motion that we deny at this time historical recommendation for 202 Middle Street.
I second. Any discussion? All
I don't
right,
think I'm going to change any minds, so we might as well vote.
all in favor of denying historical recommendation for 202 Middle, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays?
Nay.
1, 3 to 1, carried.
Okay. 340 Middle Street. The owner also called in opposition, and he can speak again if he would wish. That those are significant architectural features. It's south of McCants, was recommended based on this criteria. Mr. John, if you're available, though you already did speak, so I think the public already.
Yes, I am available. I'm just having a little trouble. Austin, if you can hear me, would you wave your hand? Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
I can hear you.
I would like y'all to designate this non-historical. And Louisa, you've been in our house. It's not special. The nicest feature on the house is the front porch that I added after Hurricane Hugo. It's a little square brick house built out of a magazine set of plans. My parents built it in 1953. It wasn't built in 1950, by the way. It was damaged severely during Hugo, and we were damaged worse by the insurance companies, and we never did get to fix the house correctly. It's got problems. And other than the fact that it's in a great neighborhood, there's nothing historic about this house. I would answer any questions that y'all have. If there's something I can do, I just can't believe that y'all would even consider this house as being historic.
Could we have the picture again, please? The picture of the building?
Yes.
Was this one of like the Sears?
And I don't know why, but I can't hear you. I can call back in. I'm over in the corner waving.
Yes, he was
but
asking.
There's apparently something wrong with my speakers.
He was asking if it was a Sears and Roebuck home. I guess he can't hear us.
Yeah, I just was triggered when he said it was like I thought he said kid home or something, but yeah,
like a Sears home. Yeah,
that's kind of a unique thing. There's not
Welcome to the audio conferencing center. Please enter a conference ID.
Lynette, can you put them
followed
on
by
mute?
pound.
I mean, I guess I'm confused because, like, to me, like the shape and style of the house is very appealing. I don't know why he's so down on it. I mean, if there's like structural or flood or mold problems, you know, is that what he's talking about?
Potentially.
Obviously, like
Any other discussion?
Historical.
Any other discussion?
I just kind of wonder if the homeowners don't want to be historic because they want that future opportunity to sell it to someone who's going to build the Mac Daddy. And that shouldn't really be what our, decision is based on.
Mr. Gallagher, Miss Montgomery?
I guess what don't you guys like about it? If maybe enlighten me.
I find
I'm talking to the commissioners.
I find the white addition to the left front a very ungraceful addition. keeps the house from balance is probably the opening of a carport, a garage at one time, which would have been very typical.
But that
This
doesn't,
did not have that. I cannot say that was historic.
but what they did didn't negatively affect the historic part of the house.
I know, but well,
Excuse me.
Like the historic part of the house still looks nice to me.
yeah, well, I don't know.
Like you
Mr.
don't like
Gallagher?
that style of house?
It's not the style. It's just not that graceful historic ambiance that I expect when we declare something historic. Now, one of you gentlemen did make the note that some of us are older than you, and I was a waitress at the Last Supper, so I consider something to be old, really, in the 18 or 17 or 1600s. And this one just doesn't ring my bell at all.
Mr. Gallagher, if you had anything to add, or
I
you can also
have
get a
walked by
motion.
the house many times, and I agree with Louisa. It is a nice house in a great location, but I do not view it as historic.
Does anyone have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that this house be declared non-historic.
I'll second. Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
Did you second it, Jean?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I still don't understand what you guys don't like about it. None of you answered it.
It's not a like or dislike.
Well, I'm just.
We don't dictate taste.
I feel like you want everything to look like a house on Church or Bennett Street.
Nothing can be built here that doesn't get approved by this committee. I keep going back to that.
Well, then you shouldn't designate anything historic under that, logic.
No, we should have a high bar based on that logic. We should have a high bar.
Okay.
And my concern is that the bar is getting too low.
Well, how did the house on Ferry or Friend Street happen? That's because of the low bar or high bar.
Because of the location, and I felt it personally needed to be an anchor. I use that.
Right.
This doesn't need to be an anchor.
Ms. Montgomery, could you call for the vote?
All righty, I move that we vote on 340 Middle Street as historic on not
You
being.
don't have, you just ask all in favor. And
Oh, excuse me, I forgot where I was. It's late. All in favor on it not being historic, say goodbye. Aye.
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 Any nays?
Nay.
Was that a nay?
It was.
3-1, denied historic status.
301 was a consent motion, so we'll go on to 320 Morrison Street, built in 1955. Here is its historic significant architectural features. Noting that this one is not just based upon architecture for recommendation, but also based upon item K, in that it be listed as it was listed as contributing, and is basically a part of the greater, that should be in greater, Old Village settlement community, which of course extends pretty much all the way over to on the Simmons on the other side. And any discussion and a motion?
Yes, I'm the homeowner, and I'd like to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. As I said earlier, I was in a fog. I was not clear on the criteria as to why the property has been, indicated for being historically significant. As our family representative, we did not want it identified as so. The original structure, our father did build it, and there has been an addition to it. There was originally a carport, but there has been major repair. Some damage has been done through Hugo. And also, we find, just from me listening to the discussion, that there's restrictions and tax liabilities and other architectural things that we would really be concerned about if we went under that category. So just doing due diligence to say that we would not want the house identified as historic.
Does that conclude?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any discussion in a motion from the commission?
Thank you, Madam Homeowner. I had it down as non-historic. All right, I will move that we do not signify as historic number 320 Morrison Street. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of non-historic designation, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Unanimously denied historic designation.
Okay, 24 is 127 Pitt Street, built in 1945. Here's its architectural features. And based upon it was listed as contributing up to 1960 and item E.
Austin, I can't see that.
You can't see this?
Well, it's not big.
I'm confused.
Down here in the corner.
Let me restart the. Let me see the.
I just clicked it. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I'm good.
All right. So let me go back to this one. Discussion and a motion.
Does adding the shingles to the front of it, does that make any difference in the fact that it would or would not be an historic designation?
My memory served. I believed it to be shingles beforehand, and they changed they basically updated the shingles to new shingles. Correct?
No,
Oh, it
it
wasn't.
never had shingles on it.
Okay, then that might. Apologies. That probably changes staff's recommendation. I would make note of that.
How do you determine this stuff, Austin? Do you like dig up historic photos?
I try to dig up as much as I can, but of course I'm just one person who. So is there a motion?
I move that we do not contribute an historic designation to 127 Pitt Street.
Second.
I would just be curious to find out, whether Luisa's memory is correct or not. Because, if it was always shingles, then
The picture I had was inconclusive, so I think by memory it probably is correct. I would just note that.
What's correct?
That it wasn't originally shingle. Now that
Correct.
I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Is that like a major? I mean, it looks to still have historic windows, and was the dormer added maybe, or?
I know the roof was changed from shingle to metal. I don't know if it had been metal at any other point in its life beforehand, but that was the only alteration that I could think of offhand.
There's the large addition on the right-hand side too, but that doesn't make any difference.
I think an addition isn't like a game ender because.
No, it's not.
Yeah, the goal is to preserve whatever we call as historic. Like if the original piece of it is historic, people can obviously add on to historic homes, but you just want to maintain the character of the historic piece. So I don't think an addition should render our decision conclusive.
All right. We do have a motion on the floor for not recommending. Louisa, do you want to call for the motion?
I would like to call for the vote on not recommending 127 Pitt Street as historic designation. An aye would be non-historic. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
I was a nay.
All right.
Okay.
3 to 1. as non-historic designation.
Okay. 312 was already approved. Sorry, the accessory structure was removed. Next is number 27, 413 Pitt Street, built in 1950. This was listed as contributing up to 1960, and criteria E. Discussion and a motion?
How old is that picture?
It's missing the fence.
It's within the Google Earth or Google Streets rather, for old villages within the past 2 years, roughly.
They even closed the carport, and there's a little white fence now.
Mm-hmm. It's not the same.
But we're not discussing the carport here. It's the main home, I should add.
I mean, I thought this one should be. I think it fits in really nicely, and it is 50 years old, but it might not meet the high bar.
Yeah,
It'd be 70 years old, I should add.
I mean, it's a beautiful home. I can't imagine anybody wanting to change it. But, that doesn't make it historic.
The large dormer in the center of the roof was added very late in the game and does not fit the rest of the house. An arched dormer. It doesn't. I'm a no.
Mr. Gallagher?
This is the old Bagwell home, and I have been in it, and I would not think it is historic, in my opinion.
Is there do we have a motion?
I move we declare 413 Pitt Street as non-historic.
Second.
Beautiful. So beautiful. It is.
All right. Any discussion, or you can call for the vote?
Any discussion? All in favor? Excuse me.
At what point is a home historic based on age? I mean, if it's not 50 years, is it 100 years in your guys' opinion? I'm just curious.
Does it contribute? Does it contribute?
I think it does. I think it makes the neighborhood what it is. I don't know why you guys think it doesn't.
I mean, age, integrity, and significance. So it has to be a certain age, 50 years. The integrity means the property must be relatively unchanged. And significance means it has to stand out for some other reason. It has to be, an essential part of the community, and its absence would detract from the historical significance in the community. And, would its absence detract from the appeal of the historic district? Maybe, but, I can't imagine anybody wanting to replace this. It's a beautiful home.
You keep saying that, but we've seen so many homes get replaced.
And if they have to us. And that's the point that made earlier. I mean, Corey, I'm sorry, that Austin made earlier, that, we can make a historic designation at that point.
We do need to keep at a timely manner. Both sides keep repeating themselves. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Louisa, if you could ask for all in favor.
Well, may I also? I just want to mention one more thing. That center overly large gable roof with an arched window destroys any historical aspect to me. So I move 413.
We already moved. We just need a call for the motion.
Excuse me.
Call for the vote.
I forget where I am. All in favor of removing 413 Pitt Street from historic designation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
3-1, motion carries.
Okay. The next few are consented. Going to go through them. We're going to pick up at item number 31. It's 631 Pitt Street, built in 1955. Mid-century split level. well, that's its significant architectural features here. Staff's recommendation is historic based on that it was contributing up to 1960 and criteria E. Is there any discussion and a vote?
I'd just like to say that, this is kind of one of a kind, and if we let it go, it's never coming back. I feel like it contributes to the character and variety of styles in the neighborhood. It's not 100 years old, though.
Any further discussion? Mr. Gallagher, Mr. Crossland, Ms. Montgomery?
I'll move that we recommend it based on item E.
Okay. Is there a second? Hello? Is anyone out there? You didn't
Yep.
answer for the discussion, sorry.
I don't hear a second.
Motion fails due to the lack of a second.
Is there any other motion? Ms. Montgomery, Mr. Crossland?
I would move that 631 Pitt Street be not considered for historic consideration.
I thought there was somebody had already moved that we were just looking for a second.
I'm sorry, did they?
Am I correct?
Well,
the other motion failed for lack of a second, which was to accept it. So this one is to not accept it. So we just need a second.
I'll second.
Discussion and a vote?
What are you seconding?
Not
It's not be
historic.
considered historic.
They don't want it to be historic.
All right. So this, Ms. Montgomery, could you ask for all in favor?
All in favor of it not being considered historic signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
3-1.
Okay. Again, the accessory structure in the back, it'd be inappropriate to have a historic accessory. So do we have a motion?
I move that 321, the ADU, be considered non-historic.
Okay. A second?
Any discussion?
I think that was Mr. Crossland, Lynette.
631.
And
Back, it's off Chico Lane.
right, could you ask for the all in favor?
Well, has everybody discussed it to death yet? Okay, all in favor of not having 631 declared historic signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Carried unanimously.
Next is 637 Pitt Street, built in 1958. It was listed as contributing up to 1960. Recommended for historic based on E, and that it was listed as contributing. Discussion and a motion?
We always said it was the Chico house, and of course it backs up to what we know as Chico Lane, and it's built with green brick, which is very unusual. The Chico family were importers of alcoholic beverage.
Well, maybe they mixed the brick with it, you know.
They did something weird to it.
Is there a,
I mean, it's the only green brick house I've ever seen in my whole life.
and I would mention that it is listed as Roman brick. So, for what it's worth. Further discussion and a motion?
Nobody wants to touch it.
I mean, I don't know. I hate wasting everyone's time, but I kind of think it contributes to the neighborhood. It's not, Church or Bennett Street, obviously.
I would I would just note from staff's perspective that the different type of brick would lend credence towards its uniqueness in the village, and that can be a contributing factor towards your recommendation.
No one could ever paint the green brick another color.
And as a historic structure, they would not be able to paint the brick. But as a non-historic structure, they could paint it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
They could still, I mean, what happens in this interim time frame if someone's like, they're like, oh, if I just paint the brick, then it kills it. Why wouldn't they just go paint their brick tomorrow? You know?
They might not want to. That being the main point. It may be a future owner. I would say that if someone wanted to paint it, it would probably already been painted already before we got here. So that would be my point.
I mean, are any of the three of you on the fence about it, or are you just a strict no?
I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence about it, Corey. I had a yes/no, and so I feel very strongly both ways. I know it's an old joke.
Like a politician.
I've been in that house several times when the family from up north owned it. They both worked for the Chicago Tribune as young reporters in the 40s. But they bought it when it was already green red.
Why don't we defer this one and take a look at it a little more closely and maybe solicit the opinion of the owners?
Excellent suggestion.
Okay, I make a motion, we defer this one.
I second that. All in favor of deferral, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion for deferral carried.
All right. 641 was removed by staff. Where are we?
Another concrete block.
Removed. I was just curious.
Staff discovered issues, changes that had been done to it.
Okay.
So that was the reason. Going on to, let's see, 35 and 36 were already consented. 37 was removed. And 38 has been, staff was made aware of the severe alterations for this one today. However, we were not able to get the agenda out in time. So if we could just have a motion for removing it or for not recommending it for
That motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor of removing number 38, 834 Pitt from historical discussion? Say aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion to remove carried.
Okay, going on to item number 924 Pitt Street. This one built in 1940. Note the significant architectural features, staff information. Property is a part of a small African-American community, settlement community, if you will, between Center Street and Richter's Way for over the past 100 years. I would mention that that has been a priority of the current town council, and the reason why item K of the kind of the getting into more of the cultural aspects as well as just the general historical feel of the community was added towards your historic criteria. So staff's recommendation is for recommendation based on D, E, and K, based on the features as a pre-World War II home and its land history as a post-Civil War African-American settlement community. So we're not just talking about the architecture, we're also getting into more of the also the culture behind the nature of the land. The owner did contact town staff to be invited. I'm not sure. Mr. Ladson, are you available?
Yes, they have their hand up. They're ready to, I believe, make comment.
Okay. Mr. Ladson, you just need to take yourself off of mute and then just give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Herbert Lanson, and I am a absentee owner, part absentee owner of 924 Pitt Street. There have been several additions made to that structure. There have been a front porch, which still lies within the 50-year criteria, and also a back kitchen. The latest addition was a sunroom added in 2008. The structure has no occupants. It's now the structure.
Sorry, Mr. Latson, we can't hear you right now. Could you might have turned yourself on mute by accident?
Yeah, I see his mute icon is on.
Mr. Latson, you're currently on mute. Could you turn yourself off mute?
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
All right. The structure is undergoing a lot of deterioration. The foundation is bad. Roofing is bad. After Hurricane Hugo, the structure was damaged considerably. I and my brother, when he was alive, put in a lot of work to restore the interior. The exterior is just being weathered now, and like I may have mentioned before, I'm retired. We don't have the financial resolve to keep this up, the premise up, and so I'm objecting to it being deemed historical, even in regards to an African settlement, which half the community has already been sold and restored with $2 million homes. I think there are only 3 families remaining out of 10 that were there, and they all don't have the wherewithal means, including myself, to continue with this liability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Latson. Is there any discussion or a motion from the commission?
When was the item K added? Because it's not on the online code yet.
Item K was added in May or June, had final reading in May or June.
What is K? Oh, the pre, okay.
Yes, item K is embodies distinguishing characteristics of a type of land development character through the prevailing patterns of existing lots, densities, spacing of homes, lots, sizes and shapes, and other characteristics that exemplify the culture, traditions, beliefs, practices, lifeways, arts, crafts, and social institutions that contribute to the heritage of the community. That was specifically added for settlement communities.
Yeah,
and under the direction of town council.
What is the like this is low down there and all the new stuff's high, so obviously this is like probably would need to be lifted to meet flood elevation. Do we know that?
Yes, absolutely. Much like the item that you saw last week on Pitt Street at the corner of Pitt and Bank Street. Yes.
I'm just like hearing the homeowner discuss the condition. Like I'm wondering if it would even, withstand that type of process.
From staff's perspective, we've seen a lot worse get repaired. The corner of River and Royal, or excuse me, River and Wilden, actually right down the street from you, the 3-story multifamily structure.
The Moswell House, yeah.
Yes, there's a reason why it's leaning, because it was severely deteriorated, and they went back in, locked it all in place, with that lean, and made sure all and custom built basically all the repairs and everything with that lean in mind, and it's good for another 50 years or so, however long that'll take. But I mean, I've seen and you'll actually see another one this upcoming session for a structure that's very deteriorated, that's going to be brought up back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just like on the fence on this one, guys. I don't know where you guys stand.
I am in total sympathy with the homeowner. I think he's got a tremendous problem on his hands. If it is left on its own, it will just get worse and worse. Until it gets to the point that it's going to be demolition by neglect, for which I would not fault him one iota. I think it's very sad the whole neighborhood has become overrun with new, large, expensive homes. It's something we can't stop now. The horse has left that barn, but I think we have to leave this one alone and not declare it historic.
I would just add to that, though, the house in front was seemingly and turned out quite nice. I don't know.
The one on the right or the left, looking at the picture?
The one on the left, the white one with the green.
Oh, Mr. Ladson, I live on your block. And I have to say, I cherish that little enclave of smaller houses that, you know, they so distinguish the characteristics of the neighborhood. But nobody wants to impose hardships on homeowners. But I do love that little cluster of homes. I mean, it's so characteristic of this area, and I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this because, you know, I always sympathize with the homeowner.
I feel like the town, like adding this item K was like a great idea, but if the town isn't going to help, you know, the people, you know, in this situation, it's kind of unfair to add the item K.
I would mention that the home is currently for sale, so not that it couldn't be brought off the market and kept within the family, but if it was sold, obviously the renovations and whatnot would be upon the new owner.
I'd like to move for a deferral of this, so that we can do maybe a little extra investigation and, you know, be more informed.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't. Yeah, I don't like to like impose on people when
I'm sorry, Corey. We need a second before we have discussion.
Sure. Yeah. Second.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that, you know, this house is off the street, so like I didn't really get a good look at it, and I wasn't gonna, you know, enter someone's property to get a better look. Like, is that something that we can, you know, we can walk back and look at it a little closer? Is that okay?
I'll confer with Mr. Ladson if I can go as staff to take some pictures for you guys.
Okay.
We do need a vote for the motion for deferral.
Question.
Yes.
Question. Are we still under the discussion mode? If
Yes.
we defer it, are we holding up the owner from selling his property?
Sorry?
If we defer it, we're putting it off for what, 2 weeks until our next commission meeting or the next special meeting?
To the next commission meeting, so on November 9th.
So we'll be holding him up about 3 weeks or so.
Well, he could still sell it, and then the next person would, you know, we're not holding him up. At least I don't think we are.
Well, it's been for sale for some time.
It has.
I mean, obviously, it would probably help him sell it if we didn't, you know, if we made the motion to not declare it historic, you know, because then the next person will be like, great, I can build whatever I want. But I don't know. I mean, I'm still supporting that we defer it and just look at it a little closer.
I'm thinking of the small African-American home that's down to the left of this one. next to a large new home. And I'd hate to see this little community destroyed, particularly this one and that other one. So.
But it's, I don't know, I just
So-
feel like it's an unfair burden, like, they have to like
We do
sell their
have,
property for, less than other people. I don't know.
we do, the motion is for deferral, so if we could have that, if you could call for the motion, Louisa.
Alrighty. A call for the vote on deferring 924 Pitt Street. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Any nay? All right, unanimously considered to defer 924 Pitt.
Number 40 is 103 Royal Avenue, built in circa 1940. There is also an accessory structure attached to this one. Based on, it was listed as contributing up to 1960, and item E. Any discussion and a motion?
I move we accept it for historic designation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really suits the site and, fits in and contributes.
Mr. Barber, we need a second before we get into discussion. Louisa, we need a second to the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
I haven't finished it, but it's okay.
Have we finished discussion?
Okay, all in, well, let's have discussion.
Lynette, can you put yours on mute for me? Thank you.
Let's have discussion on retaining 103 Royal Small Block House as historic. Let's have a discussion on that.
Is that 103 Royal?
Yes, sir.
I thought that was the sweet shop.
No, that's across the street. This is directly across the street from the sweet shop.
The sweet shop is not in the town, I should
No.
add. Yeah, excuse me, it's not in the historic district.
Oh,
This is on a very high hill. It's probably one of the highest pieces of land in the neighborhood.
my mistake. I thought it was the sweet shop.
Okay. Any further discussion or?
I didn't even look at this one, so I don't know anything.
Okay. You can call for the vote, Louisa?
I'm calling for the vote on 103 Royal Avenue as being an historic dwelling. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Unanimously carried. We also have to discuss the carport, which was a later addition.
It's not the carport, it's actually the accessory structure in the rear.
I thought it was carport.
No, ma'am. The carport in the rear was recommended for as contributing to the district up to 1960. Criteria E, built in circa 1940 along with the home.
Well, I would suggest we include that in our motion of the previous motion of 103, the house, to declare it an historical designation.
We need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of declaring the accessory structure to 103 Royal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the last one for the new items is 44. 307 Venning Street. Here is its significant architectural features. It was listed as contributing up to 1960, listed as historic, and is recommended under item E, as well as it being contributing to the district.
That is a very old picture. It presently, in this picture, reflects the fact that it was built from the old high school. It was originally on Benning and Pitt. The house has been so drastically altered, it doesn't look anything like this picture. It's lost all its significant appearance of having been built from the old school. The windows have even been changed.
Okay. Was that a motion?
I move we do not accept it for historical designation. at 307 Benning.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of rejecting 307 for historic designation signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
3-1. It carries.
Okay. Going on to the deferred items from October 12th.
Whoa.
102
Whoa,
Pitt
whoa.
Street. Sorry?
What? Okay, excuse me. Go ahead. Can't read my writing.
Well, yeah, number 45 was consented.
Right.
So going back to 102 Pitt Street, built circa 1960, though, that maybe was probably more mid 50s. I should add. No, earlier than that.
40s. 40s.
40s. Okay.
It was the post office, for God's sake.
Okay. Just noting it was listed as contributing. Staff's recommendation is historic based on A, E, and H. Again, small walkable neighborhood commercial center being an element of community planning. If the owner is still on, I would address some of the comments that you made in regards to historic designation maybe being a burden. For your property being commercially zoned, it would probably be actually to your benefit because as a contributing structure, or as a historic structure rather, for the district, that allows the commission to declare conforming any nonconformities of the lot. So parking, buffers, etc. If the structure was torn down and replaced with a new structure, they would not be able to declare that, and whoever did that would have to get variances from the Board of Zoning Appeals, which may or may not be given. So I just wanted to note that if she is still available, and for that can also be under part of your consideration, going forward for the commission. So I'll leave that there for discussion. Though I should ask, is Ms. Short still available? If you're still available, you can have 3 minutes. I think I heard her. Ms. Short?
Hello. Yes, I'm here, Austin, and listening. And I think that my concern is just that this is a commercial building and it is on such a small lot. And I've got a lot of constraints as it is as to what I could do. Right now, I just have a small gym in there. And of course, with this COVID climate, it may need to be in the near future that I consider a different business in there, and most certainly would want to contribute to the charm of Pitt Street. I actually think that particular building is not very aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and I would just want to probably make it a little bit nicer, if anything, to add to Pitt Street, because it is such a charming merchant district. So I know that, this isn't going to be something that somebody's going to take that lot and build some massive home on it. It is always going to be a little business of some sort, but I am very afraid of it being given the historical designation, because it may really tie my hands in a way that I would be forced to sell it to a neighbor, or not be able to actually have a business in there that I could live off of.
Would you like to have this decision deferred?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Would you like to have this decision deferred so that you can do additional research and discussion with township people?
Yes, I think that would be much appreciated.
Terrific. I'd like to make a motion we defer this to a later date.
I'll second that. Let's have some discussion. The school was moved in 1943. The high school boys had to carry the desks from Pitt Street down to the other side of Simmons. This yellow brick, that this building and the one next to it, which was Coleman's Hardwood, red and white grocery, were very prevalent in the late 30s. And I feel this building is a lot older than 1960. It was the post office. So let's
So
have-
actually, that was the original post office there, and then the school. Is that correct?
So, sorry, Ms.
There's
Short,
another thing. Excuse me, the original.
unless there's a question to you, you can't speak for right now, unless there's a question to you.
In
Sorry.
the 1950s, I bought stamps there. I mean, the early 50s. So I personally have had the experience of it being a post office. Of course, the original one was a Patchen's post office, which of course has been moved down to the park on Bank Street. But I think the town definitely needs to research this more thoroughly.
Okay.
Austin, I did have a question for the owner.
Okay.
I guess I don't fully understand why they think they couldn't use it for another purpose if it's labeled historic. Is it because they envision like adding a second story or making it bigger? Or
I think I can talk to Ms. Short on a later date after the deferral and quell any questions.
Sorry,
that she may
Austin.
have.
I didn't catch that. I think that I was being unmuted at that time. So am I to respond at a later time to that question? Is that what you're saying?
It's probably a question that would be better asked after I'm able to talk to you to deal with any use issues that may come up, and we can talk about it then.
Okay,
I think that would be
great.
best, just so that we all have the proper information.
Right. And that's I recommended deferral, so she'll have time to discuss it with you and other legal entities.
Don't we have a move and a second to defer? Don't we need to?
Yes. Could you call for the vote?
I'd like to call for a vote on deferring 102 Fifth Street.
Sorry, Austin, I had a question, point of order on that.
Yes.
Are they, I thought only by the bylaws, they were only allowed one deferral.
I think they could only ask for one, but this one's being instituted by the commission.
Okay, just wanted to double check and make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to know the age of this one. So all in favor of deferral, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carried.
Okay. And then 319 Pitt Street, you wanted some further information on the accessory structure for this one. You already previously recommended approval for the main home. I was able to go out, spoke to the homeowner, got a picture of it, of that. It says it's a garage, but it's more of an ADU. Interestingly enough, this is the old well. They have a steel top on it to make sure you don't fall in. I thought that was kind of interesting being out there myself. But here's your picture. Again, recommendation is for historic as it meets criteria E.
It also meets the home. It was the home of Governor Edwards, and Mrs. Edwards still lives there.
This isn't 100 Benning.
Yeah, I know. That's the Edwards property. Now, this has been used as a guest house.
This isn't the Edwards property, though.
As historical.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of declaring 319 Pitt Street Garage as historical, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Carried to be historic.
All right. Last item is for you to declare adjournment, Ms. Montgomery.
I don't think I will. I declare this meeting of the Historic District Preservation Commission special meeting, October 20th, adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, darlings.
Take care, guys.
Okay. So long, everybody.
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Right.